First step is the declaration of a quorum. David?
Joe Plankis,
Here?
John Dart,
Here.
Brian Tomamichael,
Here.
Larry Kemper, Brian Pulaski.
Brian's
Here.
he's been excused, David. So we have a quorum of 4. Oh,
Brian responded.
Brian's here.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you,
Very
Brian.
good. So we have full commission agenda. First thing is a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We do have an adjustment to the agenda. We are going to move item number 3, Resolution 13, 2025, Woodwind EDA, and we'll move that up to the first item of new business. Next order of business is approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments on the minutes? If not, look for a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second from Larry Kemper, a motion by Brian Tomamichael for approval of the minutes. Please take the roll, David.
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
John, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Brian Pulaski.
Aye.
Okay, we have a motion for approval, 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the approval of executive session memorandum. Does anyone have any questions? I look forward to a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Brian Tomamichael, second by Larry Kemper. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Brian Pulaski.
Okay, motion passes
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. Financial matters. Janelle, what's your thoughts on how we want to handle this? We can move it up to the next meeting. We've done that a couple times. In light of the agreement we have with the clerk treasurer of not being at the meeting, maybe this is something we can review offline prior to a meeting, and if we have any questions, then we can try to address those prior to the meeting.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I'm happy to just kind of show here on screen what we have for the funds to bring everyone else up to speed. Clerk treasurer is not planning to attend these meetings. She is still providing monthly reports to us, including our summary of fund cash and investment balances. These are all available as links to our agendas so that all of this can be reviewed by the public, including our monthly report, our interest report for all of the different funds, and all of the legal and municipal advisors report. So I don't know that it's necessary for us to go through this in detail here in the meeting unless you desire to. Just did want to point out to the public that these are available.
I guess my comment would be is a format I think has been adjusted to the point where it's very understandable, easy to follow. I think if any commission members have any questions, we can always send an email out and copy yourself and your staff so that try to get those questions answered prior to meeting and not take public time to do that.
Sounds great.
So
Thank
if you're
you.
good with that, we'll move on. Commission members, any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of claims. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the claims? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Larry Kemper, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian Tomamichael. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Brian Pulaski.
Hey.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Janelle, you're up with executive report next.
I appreciate that, Mr. President. I do know that Commissioner Pulowski is kind of, he is tight on time this evening, so I wonder if you might be willing to have me do the executive director report after we cover the Woodwind EDA item of business.
Good suggestion. We can
Okay.
move it to that point on the agenda. So again, back to you, Janelle.
Okay, so what we have here, we're going to jump to action item number 3, as mentioned previously by Mr. President here. We're going to cover the declaratory resolution for the Woodwind EDA. This includes Woodwind East, Ravinia, Kimblewick, TIF allocation areas, and I'm going to bring up our map here, our resolution, which shows the areas that are being suggested for a new economic development area around the Woodwind Golf Course, which was recently acquired by the Community Development Corporation to benefit the city. Let me get to our maps here and zoom out a bit. So this is an overall map of the economic development area which is being proposed around Woodwind. The Woodwind Golf Course is in this area here, 161st Street. There is a golf club. It's a standard public type of golf course, again, acquired by the Downtown Westfield Community Development Corporation in 2024. And we've identified that we have opportunities to provide this amenity, improvements to the amenity to the west side of Westfield. And we would like to use an economic development area to support additional projects to improve the course and its related facilities. So on the following maps, we've outlined the specific allocation areas that have been identified. The first here is the Woodwind East allocation area shown in purple. And this is the limits of a recently adopted PUD, which will be built by Old Town. It'll be 184 residential units that will be built around a golf course. There will be reconstruction of 3 existing golf holes here on the Woodwind site. This will be construction of 3 new golf holes within the Woodwind East project. We also have an additional economic development area to the south of 161st Street, which will be the reconstruction of 3 holes within the existing golf course. And we contemplate that there would be a land swap as Old Town develops the additional golf holes north of 161st Street and grants land to the city for the golf course itself. Then the city would provide a reciprocal grant back to Old Town to build some residential surrounding the development of the golf course here south of 161st Street. In addition, we have a number of projects within the golf course which require improvements. There's an existing clubhouse. We'd like to do a covered pavilion driving range, golf simulators, improvements to auxiliary buildings, just various improvements which have to happen in order to kind of bring the course up to the quality that we would like to provide here in Westfield for our residents and guests. This is an area known as Ravinia. It is also a residential PUD located north of 166th Street, immediately adjacent to the Woodwind East allocation area. This would provide funding for some of those capital improvements of the golf club. And we've lost our page. Let me refresh here. My apologies. This will probably happen a couple times here tonight. And we have a 4th allocation area, which is also a residential allocation area, providing funding for the projects at Woodwind. This allocation in particular is a 55 and older community. This community will not have a pass-through to the school district because we will have primarily retired older residents here who are not impacting the schools. The other 3 allocation areas are not 55 and older communities, so we will pass through the taxes that are already due to the schools within those allocation areas. I do have Dustin Meeks here to help present additional information related to the residential TIF areas here, and then, of course, to answer any questions you might have. Oh, we have to do the public hearing first, but,
Larry,
we don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah, just,
yeah.
sorry, just
Sure.
for the record, Larry Kemper.
Yep.
I, due to potential conflicts, in matters related to this item on the agenda in which I have no pecuniary interest at all, I need to abstain from any discussion or voting on the matter. So,
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. And we don't have a public hearing tonight. That doesn't come until the confirmatory resolution, correct?
On this one.
Okay,
correct.
perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's correct.
Dustin, the floor is yours.
So the only item about the allocation areas that I would note, in addition to what Janelle offered, is that residential tax increment financing areas, which are the first three of those, all but Kimblewick, have a 20-year life, and then the age-restricted tax increment financing districts, so that 55 and up housing, and it has to qualify under the Housing for Older Persons Act, which is a federal law. That has a 25-year life. So that's the only difference. There's three that are one kind of TIF district, and then a fourth one that is a different kind of TIF district, and Janelle noted that. As you've done 1,000 times this process, this will kick off a four-step process. So if you approve this resolution tonight, it goes to the Plan Commission and then the Common Council, and then back to you for a public hearing. And unique to residential TIF districts, this body has already had a public meeting with interested neighborhood associations and people in this area to hear feedback on the residential plan. So I wanted to note that that was done prior to this meeting happening. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the process or about the contents of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the commission members have any questions?
I've got a question. So we talk about the Woodwind North, where the three new holes are going to go, and we said that that's a Old Town development, but does this, Fisher Homes, as I understand, is also building several homes. It includes the Fisher Homes PUD as well?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the master development, all the site development is being performed by Old Town Development, and they will be selling off lots. So not all of the homes will be Old Town companies' homes, but the development itself is being developed by Old Town companies. So thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Any other questions? If not, we're open for a motion for approval.
I guess one more question. So Janelle, per a discussion we had earlier when you sent some additional information out on Saturday, is that included in this discussion tonight?
Yes.
Or is it part of the approval?
Yeah, so there is an economic development plan associated with this development area as well, which identifies the scope of the projects within this economic development area, attached as an exhibit here. And it has a description of the various projects for each of the allocation areas, including the construction of the new golf holes, the reconstruction of the existing golf holes, and those capital improvements within the existing golf course associated with the Ravinia and Kimblewick improvements. Yeah, so that is here attached to the action item.
And I wanted to note, I guess, John, the resolution recites that plan is being approved by the resolution as well.
Thank you.
Well, let me just understand this. Maybe I misunderstood it. You said the improvements within Ravinia and Kimblewick.
No, not improvements within Ravinia and Kimblewick associated with the economic development areas of Ravinia and Kimblewick. So Woodwind East covers the new 3 holes. Woodwind South covers the reconstruction of the 3 existing holes. And then Ravinia and Kimblewick cover all of the additional capital improvements at Woodwind from the
Okay.
increment that is captured from Ravinia and Kimblewick.
All right, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Good clarification, thank you. Okay, if we have no further questions, we're open for a motion for approval of Resolution 13-2025 regarding the declaratory resolution Woodwind EDA and Ravinia, Woodwind, and Kimblewick TIF allocation areas. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Brian Tamamichael, second by Brian, if I'm not mistaken. All in favor,
Yes.
please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankus,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael,
Aye.
Brian Pulowski.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
4-0.
Actually, that approved 4-0, correct?
That's correct.
Oh, 4-0, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. The next item is go back to our regular agenda. Public hearing on the adoption of the declaratory resolution for Grand Junction EDA and Ambrose TIF allocation area. Janelle?
I think, Mr. President, if Commissioner Pulowski is dropping off the meeting, we should probably acknowledge that.
Yeah,
Yeah, for the minutes.
if you would, David, please. Thank you.
Do you want me to come back to the executive director report? Or
Yes, let's go back to
Okay.
that, Janelle. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to provide you an update on some of our construction that is happening around the city. Union Square Garage is scheduled to open in June 2025. We're working through some of the final details associated with the operating agreement of that garage. This will be a city or is a city-owned garage. It will have residential parking as well as public parking for the nearby businesses in Grand Junction. Apartments will be opening also in June of 2025, and additional commercial leasing underway. We had a big announcement in March with Sun King doing its groundbreaking. We had a beautiful sunny day to bring a lot of people out in the public to turn some dirt over and get that project started. It'll be great to see the old fire station incorporated into that Sun King building and see construction start on that here in 2025. H Steakhouse is under construction. You can see in the lower left some early construction of their foundations. I'll get out here again in the next couple weeks and see if we can see any progress of this project going vertical, but excited to see this getting started. This is located at the southwest corner of Jersey and Mill Street, immediately across from Grand Junction, so just southwest of Union Square. Also, an update on Portal Diabetes. This is a project that we talked about in 2024. This is a relocation of a R&D company out of California that does medical device research and development. They are investing about $4 million into their development here in Westfield. And between City Council and the RDC, we had approved some incentives for them, including a personal property tenure abatement and a $100,000 grant for tenant fit out and clean rooms. They have submitted their first application for, it'll be their only application for receipt of those grant dollars, which will be or have been granted from the Redevelopment Commission to the Community Development Corporation to help fund projects like this. And they sent their first application for payment to us for approval, and it already shows that they are more than 2/3 of the way done with their construction, so have definitely exceeded more than the $100,000 grant limit. And we're excited to see that they've made so much progress and that they will be opening hopefully soon. They're bringing about 35 new jobs with an average salary of about $135,000 a year. So really great opportunity for us to bring to the South Park area. They're really excited about that, the Monon, and being able to access the trail immediately adjacent to their project. This is also a look at Ambrose on Main. We'll see this project come through today for a TIF resolution authorizing our commitment to provide 100% of the TIF to support the developer-backed bond. As a reminder, Ambrose is a fully backed developer-backed bond. That means it is not the city that is backing this bond. It is all on the credit of the developer, which is Rebar Development. This is an 87-unit multifamily building with first floor commercial, including some retail and restaurant space. They have a rooftop amenity. 222 parking spaces being provided as a surface lot behind their parcel. I do want to also note that as part of their project agreement, they have agreed in the future to sell to us that entire area to build a parking garage for $1. So this is a really great opportunity for the future of Westfield if we do hit some issues with parking capacity in our northeast area of downtown, that we would have the opportunity to build a parking garage on this site. This is a look at that original PUD that we just referred to at the Woodwind East project. Again, this is being developed by Old Town. As Commissioner Dart had mentioned previously, there are a couple of different areas here. We have custom lots, yellow. The colors may be a little bit difficult to see online, but this is the yellow color custom standard lots. These are 100 by 165 feet. And then we have areas, oh, I've lost my mouse, there we go. These are custom ranch homes, 67-foot wide by 135-foot deep. And then there are additional homes here, Fisher's, these are the Fisher Masterpiece homes, 90-foot by 140-foot. Average price of homes in this development is expected to be about $1 million. The project details, I think this is a really amazing development to come to our west side. We have an estimated investment here of about $130 million. Base AV for the parcel is $140,000 right now, which is $2,374 per acre. Our future estimated AV is $120 million at $3.2 million an acre. Annual tax increment being collected off of this project is $830,000 per year. And that number is listed after the homestead deductions. And it is also calculated after the pass-through to the school taxing district, which I mentioned previously for Ravinia and Woodwind developments. Of course, we do not have the pass-through for the Kimballwick development, as I described previously, but really great benefits to the schools. Incentives for this project will be for phase one, a city-backed bond. This bond will be used entirely for the construction of these 3 new holes shown here. We have 1, 2, 3 holes that are being constructed for the Woodwind Golf Course as part of phase one. The PUD for phase 2 has not been approved yet, has not been presented to City Council, so I do not have the layout of the golf course to provide here at this meeting. An update on Grand Park District. This is the same exhibit that you have all seen before, showing our overall master plan of the Grand Park District, a place for people who love sports. We have been moving forward with development planning with Keystone, also some early planning with Cardin Associates for their development south of 186th Street. And I'm going to show you a couple of updates here on the next 2 slides. So this image here is the northern portion. This is north of 186th Street. I'm going to keep moving John all over the screen so we can see all the relevant details here. We are bringing today a Grand Park bond for approval by the Redevelopment Commission. This is a lease agreement, or lease rental bond agreement, which was approved in the meeting prior to this by the Redevelopment Authority. It has also been presented to the City Council, and we'll come back to the City Council for approval next week. $40 million bond, which would be used to purchase the wood parcel, which is this area here. It's approximately 17 acres at the northwest corner of Grand Park Boulevard and 186th Street. And the balance of that bond would be used to construct a municipal garage. That garage has been identified as this location right here. It is located directly south of a proposed hotel. Here's some initial renderings of the hotel concept that Keystone has been working on with CSO Architects. Based on the value of the bond, we're estimating that the parking garage could be upwards of 600 spaces, more likely in the 630 space range or so. We will work with Keystone on further development of that, also making sure that we are optimizing the spacing of column bays and all of the clear spans to make sure that we're really optimizing our opportunity to park as many cars there as possible. This would be a cast-in-place garage, which would have a very long life, 50 years or more, serving Grand Park. It would replace a good number of the surface parking spaces within Grand Park and enable us to provide this mixed-use development, support the hotel and Grand Park parking. In the future, we would anticipate that this multifamily, which would surround the parking garage, as well as very likely multifamily to be built on this parcel here, will actually build a second parking garage here to the west. We're in the early stages of updating this development plan here for this parcel, but we do anticipate that those two projects would fund that second parking garage so that we would have adequate parking for Grand Park, the hotel, and the multifamily. So we do, again, have approximately 600 spaces anticipated there. In addition, Keystone is working through a 6-month development plan, refining their scope, budget, schedule, and phasing for phase 1. That will include relocation of the D1 championship field currently located here. We are earmarking this location at the northeast corner of 186th Street and Grand Park Boulevard. It would be the construction of that first parking garage, which I've mentioned already, the full-service hotel and conference center here, and a sports technology innovation hub, very likely located up here adjacent to the Grand Park Event Center. Mixed-use development, which I've alluded to already, with some multifamily in these northern blocks, as well as first-floor retail, some office. We do anticipate some opportunities for some headquarters to be located here on campus, as well as some entertainment uses. We're also studying this stadium, making sure that the needs for Indy 11 women's team are being met, that we have adequate space, that we could locate their professional sports team here. This is also a look at the southern portion of the Grand Park District. This is the area which is under contract with Cardin Associates. We are primarily looking at our first phase of development within this plan, including an ice facility to be located here along Grand Park Boulevard and a future parking garage located adjacent to it. In the short term, as the ice facility is built, we anticipate that we'll probably use surface parking for some period of time, much cheaper to build, gives us the flexibility to focus more of our dollars on the actual building infrastructure, and then phase from surface parking to structured parking in the future as more assessed value comes online to provide the tax increment financing necessary to support parking. And that is, that's everything I have to present to you guys today here. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Janelle on her report? Very good, Janelle, that was excellent.
Thank you.
Progress is being made. Love it.
Yep.
Okay, with that out of the way, let's go on to new business. Public hearing on the adoption of the declaratory resolution for Grand Junction EDA and Ambrose TIF allocation area. Janelle?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll do an introduction of this, and then Dustin can do an introduction as well before we do the public hearing, and then we'll move on to the action item, which will be the resolution. So again, this is the Grand Junction EDA. We have seen a number of EDAs in the past, of course. This is particularly located, this is the adoption of the declaratory resolution for the Grand Junction EDA. So this is the fourth step in the process, adoption of the confirmatory resolution for Grand Junction. This does include a specific TIF allocation area for Ambrose. So I'm going to bring up our item here. Okay. So Grand Junction is one of the largest, probably the largest EDA that we have in the city of Westfield. You can see here in green that we have all of our existing area of the Grand Junction EDA, and we have some additions shown in a few different areas around the city. The first exhibit that you see here is additions within the existing approved river district at Grand Park. So Previously this year, City Council approved a riverfront district. This allows for alcohol licenses to be granted by the city that are above and beyond what is available by the ATC. They have limited ability. This is for dine-in only, like on premises alcohol consumption. Not good for liquor stores or any other carry-out purposes, but it does help us bring restaurants to the area, which will really help facilitate entertainment development surrounding the Grand Park area. So staff has gone through and analyzed all the areas around Grand Park, which are within the Riverfront District and annexed into the city. So why you see some areas that are still not shown as included in this EDA, they are either entirely residential and anticipated to stay residential, or they are still just part of the township and have not been annexed in. So again, various areas along 191st Street, Spring Mill, and John Dipple, a couple of infill parcels here, which will be part of the Grand Universe development. Here's an enlarged view of the same image here. And then this is another expansion. This is closer to downtown. This is along State Road 32, right near city services. Zoom over here just a bit. So you can see we have some areas north of the Midland Trace Trail, which we anticipate could be redeveloped and have an opportunity for restaurants or other type of entertainment purposes. And so we have, again, expanded this to align with our riverfront district boundaries. In addition, we have the Ambrose allocation area. This is the project located at East Street, north of Main Street. Project being developed by Rebar Development, which I had presented in the the executive director's report previously. And this would have a site-specific TIF allocation area supporting the project itself. And I think that's everything that I have to share. Dustin, if you'd like to share some more information about the EDA, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hello, commissioners. I apologize. You're going to get tired of me talking tonight. So the only things that I would add on top of what Janelle said, at the confirmatory resolution stage, it is possible to modify the declaratory resolution prior to adopting it. And I just wanted to note that this confirmatory resolution does includes an additional parcel that wasn't in the declaratory resolution and removes a handful of parcels that were not in the declaratory resolution. But the statute does allow for modification at this stage in the process. So that's the only change from the declaratory resolution. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm going to go back to this map here. This does not show up entirely on this view, but we capture a picture of this parcel. There is a parcel located right here south of the Midland Trace Trail, which originally was part of the map. We're anticipating that entire parcel will be residential, so we pulled it out of the EDA. And then the parcel that was added, I'm going to need a refresher on which parcel was added.
It's 080535000003.003.
Okay. Do you know, Rachel, do you happen to know, is that this parcel that we had been talking about, or was there a different one that was added? I was hoping maybe we could answer that question, but I'm not entirely sure. The parcel that was added to the EDA? Oh, right in here? Yes. Okay, yeah, so this was such a tiny parcel that, yeah, thank you for the reminder. It was such a tiny parcel that it was an oversight as we were putting the map together, because unless you zoom in really close, you cannot see that it's there. So thank you for the reminder.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Do the commission members have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we can hold the public hearing.
Thank you.
We'll bring the public hearing to order at 6:52 PM. David, have you gotten anything off of emails on this subject?
Not at this time.
Okay, and I can tell we have no speakers here in the audience, so we'll close it at 6:53. Okay, next step is then to go to our action item number 1, Resolution 11-2025, confirmatory resolution, Grand Junction EDA and Ambrose TIF allocation area. I think we've gotten a pretty good explanation. I don't know that we need to beat a dead horse here, so we'll move on. Do I have a motion? Do I have any questions? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Brian Tamamichael. I'll second that motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis.
Aye.
John Dart.
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael.
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 12-2025, amendments to declaratory resolution for Wheeler Landing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hold on. 11, 12. Oh, this is the one that's not attached.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to let Rachel present on this one.
The intention of this resolution was to do some administrative cleanup with the county in order to get 2 parcels into the same allocation area. However, we've worked with our legal counsel and municipal advisor to take care of that with the county without having to go through the 4-step approval process. So the county is confirming that those parcels will be in the same allocation area. So we no longer need to have this declaratory resolution.
Oh, okay, so we're off the hook for having to address this particular resolution.
Yes, so we would request that you table this item.
Okay. Consider the item tabled. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 14-2025 and regarding TIF pledge Ambrose on Main.
Okay. Okay, this is the TIF pledge. This is confirming tax increment revenues to the payment of the economic development revenue bonds for the Ambrose on Main project. This is the very last approval associated with the Ambrose project. It has been through all of its EDA approvals now. We've been through bond approvals with the City Council and Economic Development Commission. PUD is approved, everything is ready to go. This is just the final authorization that we are committing the tax increment revenues. So Dustin, if you have anything that you want to add. Okay, great.
So basically, from this point forward, they can now move ahead with bond issuance and
Correct.
rest of their process.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Any questions from commission members? If not, open for a motion for approval of Resolution 14-2025.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Larry Kemper, second.
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 Brian Tamamichael, okay. David, take the roll, please.
Joe Plankis.
Aye.
John Dart.
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael.
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Next is an item, public hearing on execution of lease Grand Park District projects.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is related to the bond, which I had discussed in my executive director's report, a $40 million bond, which would be associated with the purchase of the Craigwood parcel at the northwest corner of 186th Street and Grand Park Boulevard, and remaining bond funds to be used for the development of a public parking garage at Grand Park, located south of the proposed hotel location. This is a lease, which is part of the lease revenue bonds. The bonds were just approved by the RDA previous to this meeting. And Dustin, if you'd like to do a presentation about, I know we've been through this a couple of times, but provide a little bit of additional context and answer any questions.
Absolutely, Commissioners. And I know a handful of you were on hand for the Redevelopment Authority meeting. So this is your half, the Redevelopment Commission's half of the lease rental revenue bond approval, and you guys get the special honor of doing the public hearing on the lease, so that is a piece of it. What I'll note about the lease that is important for the Redevelopment Commission, because you're the entity that actually is paying the lease rentals. The lease rentals are payable from local income tax, but the resolution provides that you can use any legally available revenues, including tax increment revenues, to pay your lease rentals under the lease. The maximum annual authorized lease rental is $3.5 million and a total maximum lease value of $40 million to finance the project. And then once you've conducted your public hearing and approved the lease, it will actually go to the Common Council for their final approval, after which point the execution of the lease can become official, and then we can move on in the process of working towards the sale of the bonds. So this is the last stop for this financing in front of this body. It'll go to the Common Council next for that final approval step.
Okay. Any questions from commission members? If not.
Yeah, I've got a question. Could somebody explain to me what bond anticipation notes, what the definition of that is?
Yes.
What's different?
So,
Thank you.
John, a bond anticipation note is an interim financing tool that we will sometimes authorize as a way to provide some market assurance in a transaction, right? It allows us to issue short-term obligations that are payable out of our long-term obligations. So often you see it if we're going to try to bridge through interesting market conditions. Here, the reason that bond anticipation notes are included is because the structure of the transaction. We were working collaboratively with the Redevelopment Commission's municipal advisor to nail down a final structure, and having the bond anticipation notes authorized was going to allow us a little bit of additional time if we had used a different structure. So we don't anticipate the bond anticipation notes here, but a great thing about having them authorized in these interesting market times is that they can actually provide a helpful tool to bridge through interest rate weirdness in the bond market. But that's what they are. They're a tool that allows us to issue up to 5 years or bonds, or basically to get a loan for 5 years to bridge into permanent financing.
So it extends the payback period from
So generally,
30 to 40, 35?
So generally, bond anticipation notes do not have, you're not paying the principal back on those until the very end. And you don't have to issue them for 5 years if you did issue them. And again, we're not planning to actually issue bond anticipation notes for this transaction. But when you issue them, there is interest that accrues, but that is paid off when you do a permanent financing takeout. So in terms of principal and interest payments that would be being made on a regular basis, you would be talking about the same term. It just wouldn't start for a handful of years, if that makes sense.
Have we used bond anticipation notes on any other project in the city?
Bond anticipation notes are always an option when we're talking about looking at issuing long-term financing. There are costs to using bond anticipation notes when we do want to use them because you have to go through the process of issuing the notes, which is very similar to issuing the bonds, and then issue the bonds later, so sort of documentation costs. And they do accrue interest, right, that principal while the notes are outstanding. So it's not free time, which would be awesome if it was, but it's not. So we use them generally when you can produce kind of a favorable market condition, or you can protect the Redevelopment Commission, or when it helps us to get a preferable structure, which was what the idea was here.
John, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I believe we used this mechanism when we were developing Grand Park, and there were some land purchases involved and other items that involved the infrastructure that was being built, and where somebody walked away from the project and we had to go and use some temporary financing. And I think this was the mechanism that we used at the time, but we can try to verify that for you, John.
Yeah, we can just take that offline. I just have not heard of using these in the past, and you're saying, hey, it's unlikely that we will use them for even this project. So if it's unlikely and we haven't used them in the past, why include them? That's kind of my thinking.
Really, it was. So there was an ongoing discussion between the municipal advisor and the redevelopment commission's staff team about what income source we were going to use as what we call the backup to the tax increment revenues, right? The sort of financing plan here is to use the TIF revenues to pay off the bonds to get a more favorable interest rate. What we often do is pledge a different source of revenue that the bond market is happier with, property taxes or local income tax. Pledging the property tax can create some challenges in terms of that, because when you pledge property tax, you have to rely on some other income source that you can show will pay off the bonds. Otherwise, you trigger some of the more complicated approval processes that are related to a property tax. And those processes are fine when you're actually planning to pay with the property tax, but they're very frustrating when you don't actually even plan to use the property tax. And so the General Assembly has provided a ways to avoid those procedures, but to get the benefit of your property tax. But to avail yourselves of those procedures, often what you have to do is trigger the life of an allocation area because you're going to draw on its revenues. And so when you are pledging local income tax, there's different procedures and sort of different protections. And so because we were looking at the question of would you use property tax or would you use local income tax, bond anticipation notes potentially would have allowed us to extend the length of the financing because we can use that bridge time from the bond anticipation notes, which helped resolve some of the concerns about property tax. Now, we've decided not to head down the property tax path. We're doing local income tax. And so that's why the bond anticipation notes are in there, because they might have served a purpose here. But we decided to take a different path is all. And I'm going to say, and Oscar can provide additional color commentary.
For the record, Oscar Gutierrez, Municipal Advisor to the Redevelopment Commission. John, this mechanism has not been used in the last year and a half by the current administration. However, it was last used in 2019 to develop Grand Junction Plaza. So that was, in 2019, they issued bond anticipation notes during the construction and allowing the TIF to generate, was then taken out by the 2023 local income tax bonds. So it's been used, the last time it was used was in 2019 by the previous administration, but it has not been used by the current administration. This will be the first time in the last 16 months, 14 months. Wait, hold on. It was 16, wasn't it? Okay, sorry. So again, just to reiterate, this was an option to not start the clock on the TIF to allow the revenues to grow and be able to pay the bonds back, since we are using LIT to guarantee this and not just only TIF. We technically don't need it. I would say never. We are looking at SB1 to make sure that we will still figure it out. But we still feel confident that even with the SB1 impacts, that there is sufficient TIF revenue that we don't need to use bond anticipation notes to allow the TIF to grow any further, that there should be enough capacity to issue these as permanent financing. And as of today, that is still the plan.
Thank you.
Good question, John. Thank you. Okay, with that question being answered, let's move on to the public hearing, and we'll call that to order at 7:06 p.m. David, I take it you have no emails on this?
That's correct. None at this time.
And I see from the audience we have no speakers. So we'll close it at 7:07. Next item in conjunction with this is action item number 5, Resolution 15-2025, regarding improving execution of lease Grand Park District projects. I think we've covered this pretty well with everyone's input. So I'll look for a motion for approval of Resolution 15-2025.
Motion to approve?
Okay, Larry Kemper, motion approved. Do I have a second? I'll second that motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 16-2025, authorizing use of BOT statute. Janelle?
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution is authorizing the use of the build operation transfer statute that is allowed by Indiana State. And I have Adam Collins from Wallach, Summers and Haas here to present the information related to the statute. I do want to mention this is not specific to any particular project. This is a statute that would be, or this is a resolution that would be authorized just one time for the Redevelopment Commission and then would enable us to use that type of procurement in the future. So Adam.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle. Adam Collins, Wallach, Summers, and Haas, counsel to the commission. Janelle pretty much hit it on the head. This is a kind of weird anomaly in Indiana statute. Most of the other procurement provisions that entities go through are just permitted by the statute. But in the case of build, operate, transfer, the statute actually requires that the entity go and approve an authorizing resolution. It just has to be done once, does not have to be done in concert with any project, but it's basically the entity saying, we're going to permit this as one of the many different delivery methods that are possible for public projects. So build, operate, transfer, design, bid, build, all those you typically hear. In this particular instance, it's been passed previously by the Westfield City Council, already has an authorizing resolution, has gone through. I think there are several projects that have, or maybe even currently happening, that have been delivered using this procurement method in the city, but maybe a little bit of overkill here to have to do it with the RDC too, but we thought better safe than sorry, and so we're just going and presenting that now.
Timely tool in the toolbox.
Exactly.
Okay. Any questions from commission members?
Yeah, so I'm I'm either confused or concerned with paragraph 5 in this resolution that says, this resolution shall not be repealed or amended, nor shall the city adopt any law, ordinance, or resolution which in any way adversely affects this resolution. So if there's a resolution or ordinance in place that was previously approved by the council, either the current council or the prior council, what this says is this supersedes any of those documents, and there's no opportunity to appeal. I'm not familiar if there are any other documents in place, but why would I approve something without that knowledge and information in front of us?
Yeah, so Councilor, great question, and I think a couple things here. One that clarifies. So going back and looking at this, I think we just have an error in that rather than say city, it should say commission. So I think that's something that we can clarify prior to the final, correct that kind of error before final executions or final execution is done. But the idea is generally this. Typically, you're authorizing the statute and authorizing, pardon me, the delivery method. So a couple of different things here. First and foremost, Redevelopment Commission doesn't have the ability to repeal city ordinances. So I think, clarifying that in terms of the change there will hopefully add that as it's purely related to actions taken by the commission itself. And one of the things that's kind of unique to the BOT ordinance and the reason why we include these provisions in these resolutions is that they are potentially operating contracts that go along with these. So 30, 35-year contracts that come in place. So what we don't want to have is pass or authorize a procurement method, run through a procurement process, select a bidder, enter into a contract for 35 years, and then 15, 20 years later, have some entity that comes in and says, essentially throws into question whether or not that's been authorized or not. So we kind of look at this as a flip on and off switch. You do it once, You just open up that availability to the commission. Once that's there, you don't have the ability to flip it off necessarily by unauthorizing it, but at that point, all the commission has to do, if it wants to use a different procurement method, is approve the procurement using an alternative delivery method. So I don't know if I've made it more confusing or less, but I think the key piece, Counselor, as you look at that, as that city, that should really look at commission.
So the question is, can it be approved with a change that happens, or should we make the change and then bring this back to the commission at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we approve it subject to the change, and we'll make that change in the final version that's submitted for signature.
But so this doesn't get signed tonight then? If it gets signed tonight, then it's approved as is. We don't want to do that, correct?
Well, I think we want to look at having the final format. I guess I'm okay with modifying a motion to approve it with the change indicated of changing it to commission instead of city. And then once the approvals, the entire commission has to sign off on it, John, so we can have that presented to us at the next meeting or in between the meetings to get the necessary signatures of all of the members with that modified change.
I'm not sure what the legal procedure is here to make this legit, so.
I would have no objection if we carry it over to next month, have the final document, unless there's an urgency to get this done.
Could we let the lawyers make a suggestion on
Yeah,
how we can
absolutely.
approve it today? I'd prefer to just approve it if we can today with the change. So I don't know, Ryan or Adam, if you could talk through the process.
It should be as simple as a motion to approve the resolution, subject to a change in paragraph 5 from the city to the commission. And then that would be the version that ultimately is voted on, approved, and then the commission members will ultimately sign the resolution that has the corrected language in it.
Correct verbiage.
This is purely a scrivener's error. This is just, a typo, so to speak, and we're just simply correcting it rather than bringing the whole thing back. Adopt it today and then sign the correct version when it's ready.
Okay, if you're okay with that, John, we can get the appropriate motion on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, I will make the motion myself in this particular case. I move for approval of Resolution 16-2025 with the necessary change in paragraph 5, removing the word city and inserting the word commission. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry Kemper. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plankis,
Aye?
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much for your assistance, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Okay, we have no other business listed at this time. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, May 19th at 6 p.m. with the executive session at 5:15 as normal. Do I have a motion for adjournment? So moved. I have a second. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much at
Thank you.
7:15 p.m. Janelle, nice work with you and your team. I know it's been hectic for you, to say the least. Appreciate the effort.
Thank you.